Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're also going to stick to my home county of Skåne here in the very south of the country. And we're going to go back to a brewery who you've seen me review a good number of things from before, and we're going to have a look at one of the next instalments in a series that I've really enjoyed thus far. So for this review then, we are going to head a little bit to the northwest of me here in Lund to Helsingborg. Beautiful little city, I have to say, and we're having a look at another beer from Brewski Mikrobryggeri. So this is another beer from the Pie series, which is their series of fruited Berliner Weisses. This particular beer is called the Raspberry Pie. It comes in at 4% ABV, and they're describing this one as a Berliner Weisse with raspberries, strawberries, lemon and vanilla. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. Recently this brewery have been getting a lot of plaudits for the Berliner Weisses like this, also the cake series as well that they've been doing, which is the kind of pastry stouts, and that's something that is more kind of a more recent development, I guess, at the brewery, because, you know, speaking historically, Brewski Mikrobryggeri were always really well known for their kind of New England IPAs, hazy IPAs, fruit IPAs, the Fever series and things like this. But I have to admit, I've really enjoyed the Berliner Weisses, and I probably would credit Brewski with being one of the breweries that really has gotten me into this style a little bit more recently. So the first one that I tried was the Triple Berry Pie. Then I've had the Strawberry Pie, and this month I have 3 of this series to have a look at. So there's this one, the Raspberry Pie, there's the Dragon Fruit Pie, and there's also the, I think it's called the Hawaiian Pie as well. So you will see these 3 beers reviewed over this month, along with the Triple Nipple, which is a triple IPA actually, which was, I think it's maybe the next one in their IPA series after the Triple Threat actually. But if you're interested in Skånsk craft beer, this is one that a brewery that I would really recommend that you check out. I've had some very good beers from these guys over the years. Probably my favourite one, I would think, in terms of nostalgia and things, would be the Conan the Barbarian. Little Big Hoppy was also a very good one. What else have I had recently? The Snout Juice was also a really good imperial stout as well. So yeah, mainly this brewery are producing the hazy New England IPAs, a few fruit beers, the Berliner Weisses like this, and these days they're doing some kind of pastry stouts and things as well. But definitely one of the Skånsk craft breweries that I would highly recommend you have a look at. And they are fairly widely available throughout Europe these days as well, so those of you watching abroad should be able to find some of the Brewski beers, most likely the Fever series in my experience. But yeah, this one is the Raspberry Pie, a 4% Berliner Weisse with raspberry, strawberries and lemon, and a bit of vanilla as well. So this one should be very interesting, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on it as well. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Brewski Mikrobryggeri before. No doubt you will see some more from these guys in the near future. We've got another 3 to look at this month at least, and beyond that there will definitely be more. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brewski Mikrobryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So as I've mentioned to you already, Brewski are based in Helsingborg in the northwest of Skåne, and they were founded back in 2014. So the founders of this company are Marcus Hjalmarsson, Johan Britsen, Alfred Olsen and Robin Skoglund, and all of these guys were largely inspired to start their own brewery after homebrewing a little bit, having tried the West Coast American craft beers. So Marcus is the main man behind the brewing. He was originally associated with the High Nose brand of beer, which was brewed at the Höganäs Brewery, a bit again to the northwest of Helsingborg on the cooler Lobery Peninsula. Very beautiful part of the county, I have to say, and definitely worth visiting if you find yourself here. And some of those high nose beers are still brewed there, although all of the Brewski beers are now brewed at their own brewery in Helsingborg, which you can find in the old train yard to the south of the central station. And I believe that this brewery is now producing in the region of 100,000 litres of beer per month. So yeah, you can go and definitely check that out. But in 2016 they also started their own beer festival, which is called Brewskival. They had over 40 different breweries in the first year, and this has expanded year on year. This year in 2020 it was cancelled because of the whole COVID-19 situation, but last year in 2019 I think there must have been about 80 breweries there, something like that, and it was a pretty impressive festival. Breweries from all over the place, I have to say. But they also used to open up their brewery once a month as a bar, which they called Brewski, although this has now changed and they have their own bar in Helsingborg behind the main street, which goes by the same name. They opened this back in 2018, and they also now brew some beer over in America at the Tampa Bay Brewing Company, and they're looking at the moment to open up a bar in Oslo, where Marcus also has a distribution company which is called Brewski, and they take the Swedish beers from Sweden into Norway, and I think they actually sell them into Vinmonopolet as well, which is the Norwegian equivalent of our Systembolaget. For those of you watching outside of Scandinavia, those are the state monopolies on alcohol. I believe in Norway that anything over 5% has to be sold in Vinmonopolet, whereas in Sweden it's anything over 3.5%. Something tells me though it might be 4.5% in Norway. I'm not 100% sure. But over 2019 these guys produced around 500,000 litres of beer in total, and as of August 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 300 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. So a very, very prolific brewery when you consider they started in 2015 or 2014. Then really kind of got up and running in 2015. So you know, if that's about 60 months, 300 beers, that's about 50 different beers that they produce every year, which is pretty damn impressive. So if you go up to Brewski in Helsingborg, you're going to be able to try some of the beers that you otherwise wouldn't find in Sweden. You can get some of the other more random ones through the likes of Glassbanken.se and stuff like that. Kiosk.dk is also a good resource for that. You will find stuff in Denmark from Brewski that you wouldn't necessarily find in Sweden. I'm not sure if the Norwegians get different stuff as well, but these guys are a very, very well respected Swedish brewery these days, and as I say, probably the beers you want to try from these guys at the moment would be the pie series like this one, or the cake series that they have. But then again, their kind of regular New England hazy IPAs are very good. My favourite one that I've had ever probably was the Skåne, the Barbarian. But yeah, Brewski were one of the first Swedish craft breweries that I encountered when I was over here, and yeah, it's quite cool to have a brewery of this quality so close to me here in Lund. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Brewski Mikrobryggeri for the moment. I do hope that I can get Marcus on the channel at some point for one of the Meet the Brewery segments that we'll do. I do need to contact Brewski and see how possible that's going to be, but yeah, fingers crossed we can maybe get that done at some point this year. I've got a few breweries in the Skåne area that I would really like to talk to for a Meet the Brewery segment, so we need to see what we can do about that. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Brewski for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. Follow them on Facebook and stuff, and you can follow Brewski. I believe Brewski has its own Facebook page as well, and it'd be cool to see how the bar in Norway gets on as well once the whole COVID-19 thing kind of buggers off. But yeah, let's see how we go with this beer then. So yeah, as you can see, the artwork on this one is pretty similar to what we saw from the strawberry pie and the triple berry pie before that. I'm not sure with these other versions of the pie series if there is a folk öl version of these two, because I know with the triple berry pie there was a I think there was a 3.5% alcohol version as well that was available in the ICAs and the Coops and stuff in Helsingborg. But yeah, this one is 4% ABV, and I think yeah, usually 4 to 4.5% is what you would normally expect from a Berliner Weisse. So yeah, as I say, this one is a Berliner Weisse with raspberries, strawberries, lemon and vanilla, 4% ABV. The next instalment from the pie series from Brewski. Let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. And yeah, this is one of the other things that are distinctive about Brewski. You know, these guys have these little kind of Red Bull type cans actually. So yeah, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. So yeah, as I've told you before, I am very partial to a berry sour. I really enjoy the different berry sours because you know, in Scotland a lot of our desserts are based on like raspberries and blackberries, blackcurrants, stuff like this. So I always enjoy trying different berry sours. I think the raspberries that we have back home in Scotland are a little bit tarter and sharper than the ones you'll find here in Scandinavia, but they've also got things like sea buckthorn and cloudberries, which are very, very tart. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, this one's poured a lovely kind of, how would we even describe the colour of that? It's very kind of maroon, sort of, can you say burgundy for this one? It reminds me of the Heart of Midlothian football strip, and I think, yeah, there it's maroon they describe it as. But as you can see, the beer itself poured with about a half finger of a frothy, quite bright pink head, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, and the head is just fading away to be a very kind of thin, foamy layer. But yeah, this one, as you would expect from a Berliner Weisse, this one is pretty damn hazy. You can see there is a bit of light. If we shine this one up to the light, there is a bit of light coming through just at the top. But yeah, this one's a lovely, very kind of hazy maroon colour. I'm not sure, does this one have oats in it as well as the wheat? Because quite often they are putting oats. Yeah, it says barley, wheats, oat and lactose. So yeah, this one doesn't list hops though. Doesn't list hops. So yeah, this one probably will have 0 IBUs to it. It just depends. I mean, the traditional German Berliner Weisses do have a bit of hop in them, whereas quite a lot of the more modern Berliner Weisse breweries these days, they don't put hops in them. The notable breweries in this category in Sweden would be the likes of Morgendagens, Fermenter Arna, who else have we got? Elm 11 down in Malmö are doing some really nice stuff now. Örebro are very capable in this style as well. We've got some really great sour beer breweries that are doing very nice Berliner Weisses, I have to say, and other kind of styles of sour beer. But yeah, this looks very, very nice, this one. Let's take a closer look at that aroma then and just see how we get on. Yeah, straight away with this one, they've obviously, what they have with this pie series is they've got a very solid base with the wheat and the oats and things like that, and they're just playing around with different fruits and stuff. And I suspect that what Brewski are probably doing with these beers, just because of the way, you know, from the aromas and things, they will be adding real fruit to them, but at the same time there will be a little bit of flavour essence in there just to kind of smoothen the beer out, because when you smell these beers they really do come across as having a little bit of a kind of candied sort of note to the fruit. So pay attention to these beers when you try them. But yeah, straight away with this one, the vanilla is going to jump right out at you. You can smell the big kind of thick white bready notes from the wheat. You can also smell that big oaty creaminess there, and the vanilla is kind of infused into both of those elements. So straight away this beer comes across, it's almost like a milkshake in a lot of ways, or a smoothie. It really comes across as very much like a kind of sweet candied ice cream smoothie sort of thing. The aroma of this beer, I have to say, is beautiful. And the pie series in this regard, they never disappoint. The triple berry pie was the same. The strawberry pie was the same as well. The aroma with this beer is just absolutely lovely. So yeah, your malt base, there's not too much to say about the malt base other than that it's smooth and white bready. You can smell the smoothness and almost slight sweetness of the oats, but then the vanilla really gives you a whole kind of candied vibe to that base in there. There's maybe, you know, maybe one or two little woody elements to the little woody undertones to it or something, but yeah, the malty side of this beer, very smooth, very creamy in a lot of ways, and then you've got that lovely kind of candied vanilla note to it as well. So the malty side of this beer is really very, very nice. You do get a few, there's no hops in this beer from what the ingredients list says, but at the same time you do get a little bit of a kind of grassy vibe out of it. There is a bit of a very kind of smooth, kind of grassy, slightly citrusy sort of thing. Yeah, it's the grassy notes that you get out of this beer. It is kind of almost like the power of suggestion or placebo or whatever, but I really do think there is a bit of a grassy vibe to this beer, and it's maybe just kind of what you expect from the style, because I know that other breweries do put a little bit of hops into these beers. Duck Pond, incidentally, is another very capable brewery in Sweden when it comes to goses and Berliner Weisses. It's interesting that they choose the German styles to put all the fruits in, and you know, they don't really do the Belgian sour beer styles are not as common. But But yeah, the fruity side of this beer again is very nice. To me, the blend between the strawberry and the raspberry is very interesting, because the strawberry, of course, is very juicy. I've always found strawberry to be a very kind of juicy, quite almost oily smelling fruit, and I think the strawberry really provides the backbone of the beer. But at the same time, you can smell the slightly brighter raspberry out of this one, but the raspberry doesn't come across as being too tart in the flavour here, in the aroma, sorry. Because at the front of the nose, you will notice that towards the back of the nose it's more strawberry, but then at the front of the nose it's a little bit more raspberry-like. You do get a wee bit of the kind of lemony notes towards the kind of front corners of the nose as well, if that makes sense. So you can smell a wee bit of that lemony zestiness out of it. But yeah, the raspberries are quite bright, but at the same time the strawberry kind of helps make them a little bit more kind of juicy. And like I said earlier, I always wonder with this pie series, whether Brewski, I think they are using pure fruit to a degree. You wouldn't get the colour out of the beer otherwise if they weren't. But I think there probably is a little touch of flavour essence in these beers as well, just to to kind of round off the flavour and just make it that little bit sweeter, and almost to kind of blend it with the kind of malt base as well. Because you'll notice that if you try the beer, some of these beers from the likes of Omnipollo and things like that, you do notice that the fruity notes are slightly more oily and just candied almost. So you really get that vibe out of this beer. There's a few, I'm basing that sort of hypothesis, if you like, on my experience of the Omnipollo beers. But yeah, the aroma, this one I think is really quite interesting and very nice. So yeah, it's got a lovely juicy fruity quality to it, but at the same time it's very kind of round and candied, and then you've got the big kind of smooth creamy malt base from the beer as well. So yeah, take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma from this one. Once again, from this pie series, it is very, very nice, but we'll taste it and see how we get on. So this one is the Raspberry Pie, a 4% Berliner Weisse from Brewski Mikrobryggeri in Helsingborg, here in Skåne, in the very south of the country. Let's get stuck into this one and see how we go on. Really curious about this. Sláinte, skål. Yeah, that's really nice. And when you take this beer in, you will get a bit more of the tartness of the raspberries coming out of it. It definitely, the aroma gives you the impression that it's a bit more balanced between the fruits, but it really does lean towards the raspberry. I mean, the strawberry sits in the background there, as I said, and gives the beer a bit more of a kind of juicy sweetness, and you do have a little bit of the lemon giving you a wee bit of the tartness, kind of aiding the tartness as well. But yeah, it's definitely, the raspberries are straight up in this one. They're kind of jumping right out there. And I think one of the things that I also said about the other beers in this series, these beers are not the most complex of things, but they are just very, very well done. The pie series, it's definitely not the most complex flavour profile you're going to find from Brewski, but they are just really superbly crafted. So you have to say thumbs up to Brewski for this, and this is another beer that really kind of highlights the whole idea that sometimes simplicity works better. Sometimes breweries try to think too much and do crazy stuff when you don't really need to. But yeah, this one is really nice. I think I forgot to show you guys earlier. This is the kind of side of the can here, and of course you can see it tells you the thing about the beer, but this is the little Brewski guy. Some of you will be watching one of my Brewski reviews for the first time, but this guy here, this is the little distinctive Brewski guy down there. But yeah, this is another lovely beer, this one, I have to say. So let's try and break this one down then. So straight away, right across the middle of your palate, you can feel a little bit of the wheaty notes. I think this beer again is a little bit more wheaty towards the back third of your tongue. You do get one or two little bit of bitey notes out of the wheat, but mainly it's quite smooth. I think the vanilla's playing a big role in sort of smoothing out the malty backbone of the beer. But yeah, then as you come further forward into the middle third of your tongue, you really get the big kind of oaty creaminess coming out of the beer, and I really like how that goes together in this one. The big oaty creamy notes that this beer has are very, very nice. So yeah, the big oaty creaminess that this beer has, I think, is pretty damn solid. It does, as I say, the vanilla is kind of infused into this whole into the whole kind of base of the beer. The back third of the tongue, as I say, more wheaty. The middle third of your tongue is a bit more creamy, and then the vanilla is just infused into all of that. It gives the beer an almost kind of ice creamy or slightly yogurty type vibe to it, and that sweetness, you can feel the sweetness really just smoothens out and comes out a little bit more the further that you go into the aftertaste. I really like how that goes together in this one. The flavour of this beer, of the malty side of this beer, is really very nice actually. So again, once again, a big thumbs up to the guys at Brewski for this. It's absolutely solid. If you love Berliner Weisses, then this is definitely this pie series is one of the ones that you really need to check out actually. So yeah. On the sides of the palate then, this is where you'd normally get the hoppy sort of vibes out of the beer. There is, to me, I do get a tiny little bit of earthiness out of this one. There is a wee touch of an almost florally quality on the front part of the palate there, the front corners, and then it does strike me as just being a little bit grassy on the front curve of the tongue. But like I say, there's no hops added to this beer as far as the ingredients list tells us, but usually when it comes to sour beers, a lot of breweries will add slightly older hops, very low alpha acid hops that have kind of lost a little bit of their potency. But yeah, this one, I do get a little bit of a grassy vibe out of this beer, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, let's look at the fruity side of this one now and see how we go. So yeah, like I say, when you take this beer in, you do get a little bit of tartness out of it, and that's the raspberry that's giving you that. But the creaminess and the smoothness of the malt base really kind of juicens it up a little bit. This isn't a really very sharp tartness that you get out of this one. It comes in, it's just a little touch tart, and then it's very sweet and creamy and juicy after that. So yeah, on the fruity side of this beer then, you'll notice the front third of your palate, that's normally where you get the kind of juicy esters that roll their way out of the hops in the beer. But yeah, for me, the majority of the backbone there is quite strawberry-like. It's a very kind of candied strawberry note that you get out of this one. As you move further forward and reach the very kind of tip of your palate, it's a little bit more kind of raspberry-like. I do think it is a little bit more sort of raspberry-like, this one. You do get a little bit more of the kind of sharper, tartar flavours out of this, and then beyond that, on the very kind of front edge of the palate, I think that's where some of the more lemony notes are coming out of this one. You really do get a little bit of a kind of zesty edge on the very front of your palate with this beer, but that develops the further you go into the aftertaste, and it's maybe that zesty edge that is giving me the impression of a little bit of grassiness from the beer. But yeah, that's probably placebo or something like that, because, as I say, there's no hops in the beer. But yeah, the more and more that I drink of this, the more kind of strawberry I get out of it as well. I find the strawberry becomes a little bit more prominent the further that you go in. So I think this beer, I think the raspberry is kind of playing the middleman. I think maybe this beer, it could well be like 50%, but 50% raspberry, and on one end you've got the lemon kind of trying to bring out the tartness of the raspberries, whereas on the other end you've got the strawberry helping to bring out the kind of more sweet and juicy aspects of the raspberry flavour. But I mean, regardless, this is a really nice, another very nice example of the Berliner Weisse style from Brewski, and I'm not surprised, having had the triple berry and the strawberry pie, I'm really not surprised about this. I actually can't remember if the strawberry pie had a little bit of raspberry in it as well. It definitely had lemon, but I can't remember whether it had a little bit of raspberry in it or not. But yeah, what's quite obvious with this is that Brewski have a really solid Berliner Weisse base recipe, and they're just playing around with it and adding different fruits. And this was the one, I went for this one as the first one out of the three that I'm going to try, because this is the most kind of straight up one. The dragon fruit is obviously something I've never tried before, and then the Hawaiian pie is fruits that I have had before, but it's a bit more of a kind of combination, so I need to decide what order to review the others in. But on the basis of this one and the other three I've had in the series so far, I'm sure they will be very interesting. But yeah, very smooth and very kind of very creamy Berliner Weisse actually. My hypothesis about the flavour essence, I'm not too sure about it going on the flavour, because the beer, it does have quite a little bit of kind of sharpness to it, in fairness, and I do wonder, maybe the strawberry has a little bit of a candied essence quality to it, maybe it has that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the raspberry and the lemon that have been added to this one to a degree. Those will definitely be, they taste more like it is the pure fruit in there. And the other giveaway is that you always get, if you add fruit into the beer, you always get the flavour around the very front edge of your palate rather than being on other things, and you do get a bit of the lemon and the raspberry there. So I'm pretty sure the lemon and the raspberry have definitely been added to the brew. The strawberry, it's a bit harder to tell, but if they've added the other two, it makes sense that they would add the strawberry as well. And in fairness, from the fruity notes, you do get a little bit of that almost like slightly fluffy, brambly type flavour out of them, and you know, that's something that you get from real fruit rather than the essence. But I wouldn't be surprised if there is just a wee touch of flavour essence in here to kind of round it out and match it up with the vanilla. It could of course be the vanilla has this really antagonistic effect in the flavour as well and is giving that impression, but who knows. It's interesting to think about anyway. I like thinking about all these little quirks that the beers have. But anyway, mouthfeel, our last part. So yeah, I think this is a pretty, it's top end of mid body, bottom end of full body. It's quite a thick beer, this one. Definitely one of the thicker Berliner Weisses that I've come across. The mouthfeel is very, very creamy. The carbonation is very smooth. In terms of IBUs, you're lucky if you get about 5 out of this, but probably in theory it's 0. It's between 0 and 5 IBUs. Who knows if it's what it is at that level? You're not going to be able to tell. But yeah, as I say, the malty side of this beer, very smooth, very, very kind of creamy, very slightly sweet as well. Nice little bit of a hoppy note, some lovely tart qualities to the beer as well, and some big kind of juicy fruity notes coming out of it also. But yeah, very, very interesting beer, this one. I've enjoyed reviewing this one for you as well. The raspberry pie. Do I like this better than the other ones? I'm not sure, but the triple berry pie was a really nice surprise. Then the strawberry pie I really liked. And this one, I think this is a slightly tartar version of the strawberry pie. It's got a lot of the same vibes from what I remember of strawberry pie, but another very nice example of the pie series from Brewski nonetheless. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the raspberry pie, a 4% Berliner Weisse, with raspberries, strawberries, lemons and vanilla from Brewski Mikrobryggeri in Helsingborg here in Skåne in the very south of the country. Awesome to review another one from this series, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it as well, so let's leave it at that. Thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brewski Mikrobryggeri as well. We will return to these guys at some point very soon, and you will see another 2 beers in the pie series as well as their triple nipple, triple IPA this month, so keep an eye out for those. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Make sure you check out the pie series from Brewski in Helsingborg. Cheers.